have always been inspired by coming in to an organization, working with a great marketing leader and just figuring out like how to set them up for success. What are the best possible ways to help them be effective within the organization?
How do you get people to understand what your proposition of value is?
A lot of it is relationship driven. Your reputation is so important in how you deliver because obviously your clients are your biggest sort of sales device.
What would your typical or ideal client profile look like?
The boards are sort of driving everything, I feel like, right now. So I really look for people who are empowered by them, who have their own budgets, who know kind of have a vision of where they want to go and can help articulate that to me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. My name is Andres Figueira and I'm going to be your host for the day. This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Company, helping fast-growing teams hire exceptional remote talent from Argentina, South Africa, and beyond. We connect companies with world-class professionals who bring skill, reliability, and a global perspective to every role. And just for our listeners, we're offering an exclusive 10% discount on your first hire. All you need to do is visit globaltalent.co, click Start Hiring, and mention the podcast listener discount when we reach out. And today with me here, I am speaking with Lindsey Slaby, founder of Sunday Dinner, a brand consultant that acts as an extension of the marketing department to offer insights on how to tackle today's marketing and business challenges in new ways. So with that said, Lindsey, it's a pleasure to have you on. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. We're very happy we were able to make this work. And just so that we can hit the ground running, Lindsey, would you be able to tell us a bit more about your background, how you came to found Sunday Dinner, and maybe what Sunday Dinner is in your own words?
Sure. A lot of people think it's funny. So it's sometimes very lucky to have that name because it's people think I work for run a restaurant or something of that sort. I'm like, no, not at all. Um, there are dinners though. It actually came from this moment where I did have a full-time job and was always having these sort of open door policies on Sunday nights for all sorts of different like makers, creators, people that usually didn't get in a room together, sort
Okay.
of a salon-style gathering, which is very like in vogue now, but I would say about 10 to 12 years ago, we weren't doing that as much. And it felt like a place where you could have just a diverse set of people sitting around the table thinking of ideas. Just happened to be on a Sunday night, happened to be at my house, was over dinner. And when I decided that I wanted to start my own consultancy, one of the people basically was like, "Are we still going to have the dinners?" And then immediately I was like, "Is that URL available?" um, no. Remember when we used to have to think about that? You'd be like, "Is the URL available?" That's how I'm going to name myself. It was not available. It was very expensive. And I was like, "Okay, I will buy this though, and this will become my thing." But I really have always been inspired by coming in to an organization, working with a great marketing leader and just figuring out like how to set them up for success. What are the best possible ways to help them be effective within the organization? And
Mhm.
I have, I think, a really unique way of trying to bring in lots of perspectives from different corners of the world or different places and spaces that you would go and talk to help inform what that strategy is. And so that is kind of like it goes back to the idea of what Sunday dinner was to me and how I think about bringing people together, but also perhaps maybe a little bit about my style. I really don't think we need to be in a lot of boardrooms having conversations. The ways of working feel a little outdated when it's constantly, deck back and forth. And how do you just like bring people around a table to have a real conversation? Like nothing is unique about that, but for some reason in corporate, we just don't do that as much. So that's how the name came to life. And I think you did a great job setting up. Basically, I become, many different things, but most commonly an advisor to CMOs. They're number two in the room and most often come in right when they're about to come into their new role. So you have that sort of like amazing vantage point over sitting in the background a little bit. I'm not necessarily in the rooms and I'm not, um, going through all of those stakeholder conversations and learning the team. I'm auditing it from a very different perspective. And my role is to help them figure out like where are we spending money? What are we doing? Do we know who our audience is? What plays, how to win and what are the right plays that we should be making, all in an effort of setting up the business, but also like my leader for success. And I don't take breaks in my conversation. You can tell I'm just gonna it's gonna be run-on sentences and really lots of talking. Just kidding. You're like,
No,
oh
but
my
I
God.
love that. That gives me a bunch of material to pick from and
Yeah.
make sure we have a nice convo. But then now my question is, Lindsay, are you hired or are your services required from specifically the CMO from the company, or do companies ask you to come in and help the new CMO, which is, I believe, the main
Yeah, I
profile?
usually come with the leader, so it's through relationships, and sometimes you go from you're like, now we're selling cars, tomorrow we're selling coffee, today we're selling this, because you go with leader through the evolution of where they go. I
Okay.
have found that it's more common for people to have. Obviously, you have your trusted set of people you want to bring with you. It can be sometimes a little bit dangerous to come in and make a lot of changes. So usually they do bring in like 2 or 3 people who are very close to them who help kind of like drive that leader's strategy internally. And I think that helps the rest of the team as well understand like, okay, what does my new boss want? How do I level up? How do I, understand just even how to communicate with them? I find, a new leader, especially a CMO, doesn't have as much time probably to communicate with all of their direct reports sometimes or the people underneath that, but I can, um, somehow. And I can find time to help make sure that like they understand how to translate and work with that team.
So more than consultancy, I feel there's also a big part of like coaching in this job and in this style of thing that you're doing. So it's like,
Yeah, it's funny. I get a lot of like if I'm in the Slack, for that company, people start to kind of come out of the woodwork and will be like, "Hey, just want to have a coffee. Like, how should I write this document? How does should slides be presented? Like, help me understand." And that's what I'm here for, which is awesome. Usually I can speak the language of that leader, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, skip all this. They're not going to want to see that. Get to your point. This is how that person operates." So hard when I think teams who've been there are like, okay, we have a new captain of the ship. Like, do they like it this way or this way? Or they came from Amazon, so they're this style, or Nike, and they're this style. And so, yeah, it's super cool to be able to be someone who helps them. I think they find like it's a nice sense of relief.
and Lindsay, how are you able to market this service that you're offering through Sunday dinner? Like, how do you get people to understand what your proposition of value is and get them to accept?
This is my 12th year, which is kind of cool. And obviously like every business changes over time, but I do think I do a lot of relationship building and speaking. I speak at a lot of private events or online, and I write a lot about what I do. And so generally people that I don't know will come to me and say, "Hey, I kind of see that you do this. Let me tell you like what my situation is." And then I very quickly I'm like, "Here are the 3 ways I could help you." And if that makes sense, we move forward. Um, but yeah, I do stay quite often with the teams that I've worked with for a long time, where I kind of go with them. So
Okay.
in a business of I think at this level, a lot of it is relationship driven, and which means I think your reputation is so important in how you deliver because obviously your clients are your biggest, sort of sales device in the if you say that in the right way, and, so I try to, obviously over deliver and I work really hard. I think if I were to hold myself accountable to anything, it would be like a reputation score. And I know what my clients would say, like, "Lindsay's really tough on you. She's no BS. She doesn't sleep. She's always around, being accountable." It was interesting. I was at an event like maybe last year and I was with one client and we were meeting another client and he was like, "It's so interesting. You say we all the time with them. I thought you were like," I'm like, "Yeah, like they're my team." It's like, "But you don't actually work there." I'm like, "I do work there."
Then I feel it's then a big part being PR, organic, like reputation that you've built and just word of mouth from companies to companies saying what a good acquisition or help you've been to them. And that way you're able to gain further clients. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I think and again, I think it's, It's hard. I get a lot of questions from all sorts of other consultants or agencies or things, and it's like, oof, how are people getting new business now? And it used to feel like I guess you could go to conferences a lot and meet people. And I definitely like a lot of the relationships I have are from going to smaller conferences and just being bold enough at that point in time to tap on someone's shoulder and meet someone after a talk and insert myself in the right way. I think it's hard out there. There's a lot of service providers now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many different ways that we can get work done. You used to really have like, okay, I need this thing, I'm going to go to this person, but now it's I need this thing. There's so many different ways I could get that done. It's
Okay.
hard, I think, for people to sift through and understand who is the right fit. When I'm advising my clients, we're constantly looking for agencies and partners and things. And someone might say, I need to make a website or I need a social agency. I'm like, okay, but for what? Like, there's so many. What do you mean by that? How can we think about that? So it's so important that I think people really get really laser clear on like what I said before, maybe like, here are the three things I can do for you, not
Okay.
just like services I provide, but like, here's what I'm here to, the jobs to be done that you have. That's how all of us think on the marketing side, right? Here's how I can meet the needs for that versus laundry lists that feel like they can do everything.
I also feel from the way you're telling me the story that the service you offer is a bit more high level and more strategic rather than a specific marketing service or campaigns that you create or anything like that. Would that also be the case?
Yeah, I mean, chief of staff is a way people think about it, external chief of staff, and that's a retained service, or sometimes it's a very specific project. Like for the past 18 months, I've really been helping teams reconstruct their marketing technology workflow and stack, which is complicated as we know it. I don't want to just call it AI because it's not, but that touches that touches so much of the business. You can't really just sort of like come off to the side and give a Fortune 100 company a recommendation on here's how you do this. You have to like be deeply embedded and have trust from the teams where they're sharing with you how they operate, understand the ins and outs of like everything from a marketing perspective of how we intake information, how we're working with merchandising teams, how we work with sales teams, all the way through to like how we create any sort of ad communications. And to do that, it's hard to sometimes just say like, this is a service. This is a quick product. So the way I like working is just really being super embedded so that
Okay.
I'm able to freely like have conversations and not feel like they're stuck in a specific silo, if that makes sense.
Of course. Yeah, no, no, no. And that way you gain like a better perspective of what's happening inside and you're able to provide better insight and advice. And that way your service is just elevated to a whole new level. And Lindsay, what would your typical or ideal client profile look like? Like what are the types of clients that you look for with Sunday dinner?
I look for people who are so never a specific category. I've worked on everything from Union Pacific trains to Goldman Sachs to Target to Converse. It's to Allergan boat. I work on Botox. So there's just such a wide variety. There's no category for me. I think I really look for a leader who I can tell is going to empower me and also has support from whoever they're answering to. CMOs used to really, well, I feel we're answering to the CEO, obviously, and the president, but more and more they're connected to the board. And
Okay.
so I look for the boards are sort of driving everything I feel like right now, more recently. So I really look for people who are empowered by them, who have their own budgets, who know kind of have a vision of where they want to go and can help articulate that to me. And then they have to be super curious, wanting to learn new things, wanting to learn new technology, wanting to think about new ways of working. I mean, the best questions that some of my leaders ask me if they're going down a path, they just say, challenge me on this. Like, okay, you have an opinion on that. Why wouldn't we do that? I'm like, well, this is what I'm thinking. And they'll push back, like, no, I think we should do it this way. I'm like, I don't. And let me go see why the data. And like sometimes I think that's the thing when you're at a senior level, like who's your sparring partner? That's what gets like constructive conversation. Dinner table like conversation that's not just I agree with this person and this person, they're looking for people who are open and willing to do that. And if you think of the time that I go in with a leader when they're going into a new org. Most likely, are you going to be confrontational with your new boss? Most likely not. I mean, some will, and I love that
Mm-hmm.
people have a point of view, but I would say they're a little more docile. And that's where it's nice to have someone that's pushing you or checking you, just so you feel like, oh God, okay, I'm not, new leaders or new people coming in, like they're not kingmakers. They're not like, they don't know always the right thing to do. They have a point of view and they're trying to push, but it's really scary when you put yourself out there and no one is saying, maybe that's not a good idea because they're just sort of waiting. They're like, I don't like his idea, but we'll just see how that goes. You almost feel like sometimes you're being set up to fail.
Of course.
That's a whole
Wow.
other conversation, but imagine just having someone who's like, wait a minute, what about this? And again, all my clients will always sometimes be like, totally disagree with you. I'm doing it. I'm like, great, just telling you.
Well, that adds value to what you're doing because you're believing in it. But I had not thought about it in the way that you're putting it, and it really is very beneficial
You're
to
like
have
on an island. I mean,
exactly.
you have your C-suite staff, but again, they're not really subject matter experts in what you're doing. And then the board might have people who are also marketers on it, which is amazing and more common, but they'll push you, but then you're a little like there's just the dynamic isn't right. So I think having someone where you can just be like, what about is it please look at this before we make this a Super Bowl commercial. How do you see it? And I'll be like, it's awesome. Or I'm like, whoa, 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 no, nope, no, nope.
Well, before the Super Bowl commercial airs, I think it's a great moment for somebody to ask for a second opinion. But
Yeah.
Lindsay, now that I hear you speak further about what you do, I also feel that a great part of what Sunday dinner is that it's like kind of like you're the product and the service you offer is your insight, your experience, and your
Yeah, I mean,
advisor.
it is me. I mean, I have something else which people sometimes get a little confused about with Sunday dinner. I'm not sure, but I have a Slack group that's a really it's a really well-known Slack group, I think. I hear a lot about it. People ask me a lot about it. I love it, but obviously like I run it. So, I think the waiting list was like over 15,000 plus people once, and then I cut it. I sort of like restarted it because I couldn't like go through all of those. So it's a small group. Someone has to leave for you to come in. So seat goes up at the table and you can enter in. I pay for it. No one, so that I can kind of have my own approach to how I manage it. And it really has a collection of that like virtual dinner table, which is the best
Okay.
marketers are in there, the best people who own all sorts of different service companies, so ad agencies, media, tech, etc., from all around the world. I mean, it's a heavy US focus, but we definitely have a lot of people from Latin America and Europe in there. Um, and the idea is that it's one feed and you're just sharing amazing insights. There's not a lot of like job postings, there's not a lot of like just quick memes or things. It's all about write something, share something, tell people what you think is going on. And I'm pretty pushy about it because I'm like, we have so many other places and forums you can go for all these other things. This is the best of the best, right? And so if you want to have the best conversation that no one's having openly on LinkedIn, because they're not going to, you're going to have it here. It's Chatham House rules. Generally, you can share things but not cite it. But I mean, you want to get to like a specific artist, right? Like you want to do a deal with a certain artist. The person who manages them is definitely in there. Everybody wants to
Okay.
hear about like a recent Coachella activation. The people who did it are in there. So like it's just such a cool way to have access to the best people in the industry. And there's a lot of marketers in there who are like, okay, how do I do, you know, they came from maybe a large role at a brand and now they're consulting. Again, who do you go to say, how do I make a contract? What should I be charging? How does this work? You don't really want to feel like you don't understand this. And in there, everyone will tell you immediately, like, here's a contract, here's how you do it, here's my lawyer, here's the thing, boom, 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 go. And you just feel like you're not alone anymore. So I love that group and I learned so much from it. And I think others do too, which is why everyone wants to get in there. But then it's so hard because you really just you wanna maintain when it's smaller, even though it's 400 people who are pretty active, like, it's still small enough where, like, you know everyone, and the best thing about a community is the fact that, like, the people in there get together. I bet you there's a conference happening right now, I know in Florida, and I know they're, like, getting together. Like, people who've never met each other are like, "Hey, I've never been to this event," and they're like, "Neither have I," and, like, they're going together. I have nothing to do with this. They have dinners in different cities. It's like it's the coolest.
I feel like I think it's beautiful how you were able to digitalize the Sunday dinner and now
I
it's a
know.
whole
I didn't
online
mean to do it. It
community.
wasn't like I was trying to do it that way, but I really was just actually sick of, like, posting things on LinkedIn where I, like, really wanted to know, like, how did someone do the strategy for X, Y, and Z? How much did this commercial cost? What's the price I should be paying for X, Y, and Z? I needed, like, a place for that, and that's where that happens.
Are you like taking up with this endeavor all by yourself or do you have a team behind you that's helping you
No,
with Sunday
I'm by
dinner?
myself. I've over the years, had amazing partners or worked with people on different projects, but what I would say is when you're working so closely with an executive, which has really become more of what I'm doing,
Exactly.
they wanna work with you. I have obviously, I've been really and I'm really thankful that I got ahead on what we can do with AI years ago, right? So I've really built amazing ways to be able to do what I do.
Okay.
Um, and I plug into my clients' tools as well quite a bit because we can't really have information on our own computers, blah, blah, blah. But yes, it's just me. I know.
Wow.
What am I doing?
This is a
I have a
big
great
ordeal than
husband
one.
who's always like, I'll see ya." It's just I work hard.
No, but like it must be intense because doing all this by yourself, it's like as I mentioned before, like I feel you're the product and what people are acquiring is your experience, your mindset, and your learning. So it's just like
Yeah.
it needs to
And you
be
have to
you.
stay learning. That's the thing, like,
Uh-huh.
you're of no value if you're also not trying to make sure that you're learning as much as possible. I mean, over the years, I feel like I've been really lucky to get projects or moments where it's like, we need to rethink our whole media mix modeling strategy or whatever, and I'd be like, "Yep, yep, don't know anything about that, but I will figure it out," right? And so now I continue to, like, add these deeper understandings in, whatever is top of mind that needs to go on the business strategy for the year. And like, you also get such access at this level to, and I think that's a huge thing in the industry right now. I actually talk a lot about it. Like the C suite has amazing access right now to training and what's coming, etc. We need to close the gap. I think of it as like a sort of a cliff. And there was an article about it maybe earlier this week where it was sort of like a lot of people are seeing certain things and they're moving and they're training and when they're in a room with people who aren't there, you can really tell the difference right now. And unfortunately, inside organizations, we're struggling to find the right ways to train our teams while they're also doing the work at the same time. But the C-suite right now has just insane access to Google's training that they were doing even a year ago, YouTube's training, what we're getting from direct training from OpenAI and Anthropic. And again, when you're able to see how things can be done and you come in and see something that's still a little behind, you're like, ooh, I really want to turn that up. So I've gotten to see a lot of that, but I also think that that is a problem in the industry. And it is a sense of accessibility and who's able to really be in the rooms and understand where things are going.
How are you leveraging AI to help you with what you're doing? Can you maybe shed a little bit of light on how you
I use
work with AI?
everything. I have agents for
Very good, right?
everything. Yeah, I think this is the same thing. It's like, I saw I was frustrated a while ago once with like some social media insights and like where are they coming from and how come I'm not getting a real-time update on sentiment and conversation for one of my clients. And they have lots of tools, but you log into them and the experience isn't really great and still like I have to go log into something. So I'm like, okay. I see all these dashboards that I love that are for finance trackers. I basically just went to GitHub, got the code for it, started making it, made it in Claude, and boom, now I have it. And then I just gave that to my leader and was like, this is what we need every day. And he's like,
Great.
again, where's my team? I'm like, I don't know, but I just needed to learn how to do this and we need to do it faster. So like you have to just sit down again. You have to, I don't know where people have the time. I'm super, I mean, we don't have kids. That's also a big thing being a consultant, that there's so many other things that distract you in life. Or, I have a lot of extra time where I can, sit down and learn everything. But I definitely, I use Claude as my partner. I use Cowork specifically for a lot. It's all connected into all of my files. If
Okay.
quite nicely, it organizes my files for me now because I've always been like, these are all disorganized. I've learned, I started as a coder when I was a kid. It's funny. One of
Okay.
my yeah, so my dad worked in computer programming and in different ways. And we had an IBM, I remember, and now I'm going to be way older than you. But he basically like taught me how to like start writing lines of code and whatnot when I was really, really young. And I remember being the kid that had like organized all their baseball cards in a Lotus Notes database, and I thought it was really cool.
Oh my god,
Like
it
how
is
to
really cool.
and then I'm just like, after I did it, I remember being like, what do I do with this? But I've always been into computers and coding, and I could basically do everything a long time ago, but it kind of comes back to you when you're trying to figure out the right ways to approach this work. So I would also say the same of a lot of my clients. They use a lot of Reforge is a program that a lot of us have access to. It's quite expensive, to be honest, but I do feel like it's a really valuable learning course that's gotten people up to speed. But I do have a stack of things that I use, and I've been really happy using Claude in terms of its ability to help synthesize data and, draw insights from things, which I find really valuable as a strategist on a lot of work. So,
It's incredible that you have all these little experiences from before that add up to what you're able to provide today, because it's like I don't have any coding experience and I'm already just vibe coding websites. I'm using Claude. I'm doing the Anthropic courses. I even put my designer
awesome.
hat on and create images. It's like, it's crazy. And to me, it happens that I have my whole workday set up. And then after hours is when I start tinkering and playing with AI on my own time, because if not, I'll just fall behind. And
And I
that
think
can't
I think
happen.
that's what the hard thing is, balancing the optimism right now. I do think a lot of us on my side at larger companies, we're going through a lot of changes and we have to make a lot of changes within our organizations. And, people are seeing the layoffs and what's happening. But the optimism that comes from what we can do is just amazing. It's amazing. But, it can be hard to it's almost like, when you're in a room and everyone's, like, starts talking about politics, you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna, like, tiptoe out of this." It's the same thing. I'm like, "Oh." Like, I'm not gonna reveal my cards and where I'm at in this world because it starts to get really complicated and the conversations get complicated. So,
As the founder and the main image and product of Sunday Dinner, what is your objective towards the end of 2026? What would you like to have accomplished by the end of this year?
it's interesting. I have a personal project I really wanna finish. Uh In another world, I wish I was a travel agent. And I like, even on my Slack, I have this like amazing list of all my places and nuances and things. And I really want to build that into like a working tool. So it's finding time for that. I know that's probably not the exact answer, but it does point to the fact that like, I feel like it's a lot this year's heavy. There's a lot of change coming. The work I'm doing and for my leaders, I think is it's hard. It's a very big transition year, right? And so I think finding those moments that keep you creatively inspired are really important as a balance. And so that might be gardening or other things. For me, it's actually like building something online, which also like keeps using the tools and things I'm excited about, but for personal use. And so I just want to make sure I have time to complete that. So hold me accountable to that.
Lindsay, thank you so much for hopping on here with us, for
Yeah.
providing
Nice to
us your
meet you.
insights. No, likewise, and for telling us your whole story. I'm loving what Sunday dinner represents, and I can't wait to see what else you do with that.
All right. Thank you.
No problem at all. And to anybody who is here listening to us as well, we really appreciate you for coming on the show to listen to the different personalities we bring on and learning about all the different industries that we are talking to. So, with that said, have a good one.